Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another session of Ask Zak with myself, Zak, and my trusted colleague, Sean.
Well, good evening and welcome back.
Now, this evening we're going to look at lamb care, how to take care of the kids, of the goats, and the lambs of the sheep. Now, first and foremost, before we go into anything, a lot of people think the feed is a golden bullet. It's going to solve all their problems, take care of all the shortages and everything like that. But it's not the case. Feed is a supplementation. It's just to make sure you catch those shortages that you might have in your veld. Now, when we talk about shortages, the biggest challenge we run into when we look at people feeding sheep and goats is a shortage of roughage. Now, roughage is incredibly important. Very, very important. So make sure you've always got good quality hay for your animals available, or good quality grazing. Remember, the animals rumen, that's a little microbiology happening inside there, and if we upset that bacteria, they're not going to work properly and they're not going to digest anything that you give to the animal properly. So make sure your animals get good roughage. Then when you add any feed, then you are sure the animal can utilize it, and all the other shortages like mineral, trace elements, and of course a little bit of fats and proteins are supplemented to make sure you get the most of your grazing. But first and foremost, make sure your grazing is good. And very important, another thing, make sure, but lucerne doesn't go through as roughage. It's a protein source. So don't think you can change your hay for lucerne. It's not going to work. It's just a protein source. So be very aware of that, because when it comes down to our lambs, we have to take care of the parent stock first. Otherwise, your animal's going to be under condition, it won't be performing well, and you won't get the lambing percentage that you need. Because with sheep and even with goats, you strive to have twins and even more. Having only one lamb, yes, it works, but it's not financially that viable. So, first and foremost, now let's just take care of our parent stock. Sean, how do we take care of our ewes, our pregnant ewes, and our rams?
Well, Zak, very important. We at Alzu keep what we call a ram, lamb and ewe pellets. Those ram and lamb and ewe pellets are maintenance feed to keep your goats and your sheep in good condition. If you are giving your ram, lamb and ewe pellets, you are making sure that at any point your goats and sheep are within the right level of condition so they can bear for you kids and bear for enough milk for your kids and lambs. So the ram, lamb and ewe you can give to your lambs, your your dams. That means the mothers, 1% of their body weight. And when they've given birth, if you see them struggling, you can conditionally increase it to 1.5% of their body weight to help them produce enough milk. Like Zak said, it's very important to take care of the mother so that the mother can take care of the baby. So if you give them enough, they will produce enough milk to have the small kids and the small lambs grow much better, have much strength. And always remember, it's very important, milk has no replacement. So whether we give them any feed, we give them anything else, they need the milk to give them that up in their growth. So very important, give your dams their ram, lamb and ewes to make sure their condition is consistent and good enough to produce enough good, milk.
And of course, just to add on to what Sean is saying here, with the ram, lamb and ewe pellets and most of our sheep and goat feed, we also add ammonium chloride. Now, ammonium chloride, of course, it prevents kidney stones in the male animals. Now, if you've been a person that's had a kidney stone, you know it's very unpleasant. You cannot function properly. And it's the same with our sheep and our goats. If they get a kidney stone, that ram is never going to perform. And it's in constant pain, so it's not going to eat as much and not perform as you need it to be. But now when we get to our lambs, just something that I want to touch on, of course, is something we call milk tapeworm. Now, as the name says, milk tapeworm lives off the milk of the ewe. So it stays in the stomach of the little kid or lamb, and as the kid or lamb drinks, the milk tapeworm takes that nutrients that's supposed to go to the lamb's body, and the worm uses it. And most of the time, but just by checking your animals, you can see an animal that's got a high challenge of milk tapeworm. They've got a boopens, pot belly. The rest of the body is quite slim, but the belly is standing as like a swollen belly. That's a good indication of it. And of course, a very rough hair coat, because the nutrients can't take it. It looks like they've been brushed with a steel brush, staalborsel, like we call it in Afrikaans. And that is a very good indicator. And of course, the feces. If you check the droppings of the animals, sometimes you can even pick it up in the feces. So you can, and most of the time we advise you to treat for milk tapeworm at 2 weeks of age, because that's when they start nibbling around, because they imitate their mothers, and that's how they get those eggs in, by nibbling around, imitating their mom. And of course, then you've got a big challenge. Those animals aren't going to grow properly. So make sure 2 weeks. You can use Prolos Orange, you can use Irradiworm plus tape. Those are two very good products that you can dose them orally with, so that you make sure there's not a challenge of milk tapeworm. But now this 2 weeks of age, it's already early start, but we talk about creep feed, Sean. And what is the importance of creep feed when it comes down to our lambs?
Well, Zach, very key. When we're talking about creep feed, we're talking about the beginning of the stage of any young lamb or young kid to start learning and start using feed adequately. The creep feed is designed to reduce stress on the rumen, to make sure the rumen is developed correctly soon enough to take in all the roughage and take in all the feed and use it optimally. It also helps to remove the stress of the mother having to produce enough milk for a kid or a lamb. So very important with the creep feed, we recommend that you give it from at least 10 days. From 10 days onwards, you start giving it creep feed. Obviously, it's meant for the lambs and the kids, but you can start giving it while the mothers are there, so that the mothers can teach them this is edible. And then after a few days, you can give them by themselves when the mothers are not there. And it helps extremely to develop the rumen. Your main asset when it comes to your kids and your lambs is the rumen. A happy rumen is a happy goat that grows very well.
Now, just something, a little bit of useless information, but creep feed gets its name from, usually we have a gate or something that the lamb needs to squeeze through. Because, the creep feed is very tasty and, of course, a little bit more expensive. But you don't really feel it as farmer because your intakes are so low on your young animals. But if your ewes get into it, they're going to enjoy it a lot, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So usually we put in a smaller gate where you can't squeeze through, and your lamb can still go through, and you separate them so that your ewes don't take up basically the creep feed and can focus on their ram and ewe pellets. But of course, this is just a small part of rearing ruminants, especially looking at our goats and our sheep. Now, there's a lot more to talk about, but too much for a session like this. But Sean, you guys are busy with Farmers' Days and Training Days, where you give a lot more information. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So, this week we are in Midrand and in Marble Hall. So we will be having a sheep and goat Farmers' Day, where we will have all the information that we can give to you about how to raise it. And even if you have questions that you've seen things before, this is your opportunity to come and ask those questions. We will be in Marble Hall and in Midrand, like I said, so on Thursday. Please join us. Always remember, book a seat, or else you won't have a seat, and then we'll have a problem in having to give you the right answers on a daily basis. Have a good one.
And of course, it's free of charge.
Free of charge, free of charge. So you just need to book your space and come in. As soon as you're there, you get all the information, you get all the pamphlets, you get all these nice things to help you grow better so that we can grow with you.
So thank you from our side, and stay tuned for next week, Tuesday, same time, same place.
Same time, same place.
And from my side, have a good evening.
Great, have a good evening.